This is a show that helps you grow your business by figuring out the customer experience one piece at a time. This is Growth Decoded. Hello there, Internet, and welcome back to Growth Decoded, the Internet show from ActiveCampaign that exists to help you grow your business by decoding the mysteries of the customer experience. AKA, we want to help you better understand how to serve your customers so that you keep them and get more of them. I'm your host, Ernie Santorelli, joined as always by my leafy green co-host, Plantasia. Can businesses be funny? Tim Washer seems to think so, and not only that, he thinks that humor is a massive opportunity and a critical piece of forging human connections in a world where trust is a hard thing to come by. Take a look.
The way we're communicating right now, the same old thing won't work anymore. Because people no longer put their trust in these institutions or white papers.
Right.
So we have to connect on a human level, and that's why I think comedy is so important.
How does breakfast continue to get away with things like that?
If you have that kind of clout of being the most important meal of the day, you can do anything. And it transfers into any kind of content marketing career. It's the same thing. Just establish yourself as the most important meal of the day.
So you just want to be the breakfast of whatever it is that you're doing.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Either make them smile, or better yet, if you can make them laugh. I mean, that's an incredibly intimate connection you form. And the idea is if there is a concept or an idea that scares you, you have an obligation to pursue it. Because the reason it scares you is it represents new frontier that you haven't explored yet. And because it's new frontier that you haven't explored yet, that's going to yield the most creative idea, the most important connection, that kind of thing.
What are some ways that you can use humor to stand out in your messaging? How can you use humor to create positive experiences for your audience? I know. Humor in business communication, brands being funny, that's preposterous. Doesn't have to be. Go take a look at the Twitter accounts for Wendy's and Pop-Tarts if you don't believe me. Plenty of brands have experimented with humor and found success with it. Why? Well, first of all, who doesn't love smiling or laughing? You only do these things when you're moved to do them, meaning something made you so happy that it elicited a visceral reaction from you. That's a textbook positive experience. And we know that people talk about their experiences, both positive and negative. But here's the thing about funny positive experiences, they get shared way more often than a general run-of-the-mill campaign announcement or marketing post. Think about memes, think about funny videos or tweets. To take it further, a meta-analysis of 40 years of educational humor research showed that humor increases the strength of human connections, and that relevant and appropriate humor causes us to retain and engage more with information. Not only that, but a campaign or a social media post from a brand that's lighthearted or goofy or humorous and successful, meaning the joke lands or was well received, that goes a long way towards gaining followers for your business profiles. And that leads to a lot of good stuff. Like what? Well, Sprout Social found that of a brand's given audience on social media, 92% of consumers will go to that brand's app or website, 89% will buy from the brand, 85% will choose that brand over a competitor, and 84% will recommend that brand to a family member or friend. And that, my friends, is the power of a successful joke. All right, let's get into it.
And now I'm joined by podcast host, MC, keynote speaker, comedy writer, contributor to shows you may have heard of like Saturday Night Live and a lot of other pieces of your title that I'm sure that I'm missing. I'm sorry about that. Tim Washer, welcome to Growth Decoded. Moving into the topic of conversation here.
Yes, sir.
And something that you, I think, are uniquely positioned to talk about with us is the idea of branding and like creative branding, creative positioning, creative marketing.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think a lot of brands are looking for. They're looking for something that sets them apart, makes them distinct. How important is that? How important is the idea of creativity and marketing as a vehicle to make yourself distinct or make yourself stand out?
Man, listen, in this COVID world, that's all that matters. It really is, and I'm being serious now. So, one of the things, it's funny that the thing is now, the world is so polarized right now, and there's so much anxiety in the system that people aren't listening anymore.
Right.
If I'm coming to you with a pitch, you're just not interested. A good friend of mine is a lobbyist, and he was saying, you know, he said it's never been more difficult to just get someone's attention on the phone. And he said he does these Zoom calls, and he says, my goal now for the first minute, I want to make that person smile. You know, let me just connect with them in a genuine way so they smile. And I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, the way we're communicating right now, the same old thing won't work anymore. You know, because people no longer put their trust in these institutions or white papers or a PowerPoint deck. We just don't believe it anymore.
Right.
You know, so we have to connect on a human level, and that's why I think comedy is so important. You know, trying to, like my buddy, either make them smile or better yet, if you can make them laugh. I mean, that's an incredibly intimate connection you've formed. So that's why people, if you're going to get anything done, I think the only way to build trust is to show who you are, to approach it with humility, you know, to have humility and humor and just share a little bit more of yourself in a genuine way.
So the importance of comedy, if I could think of like an opposite to comedy, I feel like it would be like corporate-y writing, like a company trying to get a message across. Right?
That's right.
Like I cannot think of anything that might be like more anti-comedy than that, at least on the surface level. So how do you get over that? Like how do you approach that? How do you begin to start weaving comedy into your brand voice?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a key question to even start down this road, is to understand that piece. And so I worked at one of the anti-comedy brands, one of the largest anti-comedy brands in the world. And the attorneys won't let me mention the name, but I'll just describe it as like an international business machines corporation. Okay. So I worked in the mainframe business, where you would think, right, the comedy writes itself.
Absolutely.
A 60-year-old platform, you know, it's who's not going to hear mainframe and laugh, right?
Right.
So, you know, look at Conan O'Brien. He built a career on mainframe jokes. If you go look deep into these things, look in the history. When you go to the Kennedy Library in Boston, check it out. There's a book on Conan. So where you start, look, here's the thing. One of the rules in comedy, when you do stand-up comedy, is comedy comes from pain.
Right.
Okay. And so to translate that into the business world in communications, it's like, well, start with the pain point that your customer feels. What is the pain that your customer is going through? And play with that.
Okay.
And so a very simple formula is like, okay, let's find out what their pain point is. And you should know this already because they're your customers, right?
Right.
And then just come up with an idea to heighten that. What would happen? Ask yourself these questions. What would happen if that pain was never addressed and it got worse? And then exaggerate it beyond reality, you know, like up to, you know, to Armageddon, you know,
Okay.
what would happen? And the thing is, that makes it funny. Once the hyperbole will make it funny. But the thing is, there's truth in the pain that the customer's feeling. So now your customer sees something, they're laughing with you, and you've also kind of established this empathy, because you're communicating, you're investing your time and money in communicating about the customer's pain.
Right.
And they feel appreciated, they feel heard, and you know, and you're being silly, and being silly in the right way is so important right now, because I think when people see someone being silly, they feel like, okay, now Ernie's not being pretentious with me. He's willing to laugh. He's willing to let his hair down. And I feel like, okay, we're having a real conversation now.
Right.
And that's what starts building trust.
Right, like cuts through the tension and sort of lets everybody bring their guard down.
That's exactly right. Because in any marketing or sales conversation, even before it starts, I know you're going to come at me with a pitch. Like if we have a call scheduled today at 3, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, you know, my amygdala is back there thinking, here comes the pitch.
Right.
You know, so let me just have my guard up, and without necessarily consciously thinking about this, I am prepared to defend myself. You're going to ask me to take this one step further. You know, can we meet in person? And I'm just thinking about already, what are my defenses subconsciously?
Right.
So if you open up that call and, you know, make a joke not about your company, but about the problem that I'm dealing with, I understand that at the very beginning of this call, you've done some homework and you've understood my business.
Yep.
And so now all of a sudden, all that resistance I had is just melted away.
Right. Yeah, like the rules of the game that were established are sort of just like, they're out the window.
Yes.
You know?
That's exactly right. Yes.
and it allows for like a more human moment, a more human connection and experience, which, to your point, what you were saying earlier, in this day and age is what we need, right?
That's exactly, because we're all so guarded.
Yeah.
And just with one little joke like that, or just even a reference of, hey, I know you must be dealing with, whatever it is, it melts all that away. Now I'm surprised and caught off guard, and I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
Because he knows my business, and he made me smile,
So one of the things, I love everything, and I think that everything that you just said is spot on, but one of the things that I think holds a lot of brands and people back for sure is the fear of it, like, bombing, of it not working.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's like nothing more awkward, painful, fill in the blank.
That's right.
Negative experience than, you're putting yourself out there to
Yes.
try to make a funny thing happen, and
Yes.
it just doesn't happen. So how do you, get over that fear? Like,
Okay.
how do you approach that?
So a couple of things. First is you lower the risk for yourself.
Okay.
And you don't say, look, I'm going to make this person laugh. You just say, look, I'm going to see if I can get a smile out of this person. That's
okay.
it. Or see if I can, surprise them with my understanding of the business or my compassion, but maybe do it in a little more lighthearted way.
Okay.
So lower the expectations on yourself. That's one thing, and just go for the smile. The other thing is you want to consider, well, what if I don't even do comedy and I just do it the same old way?
Right.
Well, there's probably an 80% chance that it's going to be the exact same result as last time, and it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
So what do you have to lose? That's one thing there too.
Yep.
As a stand-up, I like to have a recovery joke ready,
Okay.
and it doesn't have to be a joke. But if I know a joke's risky and it's going to bomb, or might, an audience might perceive it as a different way, then I'll have a recovery joke ready to go, and follow up with that. And I know it'll hopefully redeem me a bit. And that's one thing. Think of a backup. But one other thing I want to share is, so I studied improv years ago with
Okay.
Amy Poehler before she got on SNL.
Wow.
And so she taught me this principle called follow the fear, which comes from, actually, Del Close is the founder of long form improv, and that's where she learned it, from studying with Del. And the idea is, if there is a concept or an idea that scares you, you have an obligation to pursue it. Because the reason it scares you is it represents new frontier that you haven't explored yet. And because it's new frontier that you haven't explored yet, that's going to yield the most creative idea,
Right.
the most important connection, that kind of thing. Now that takes a leap of faith.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I understand and I appreciate. Look, I remember the first time I did stand-up comedy. I really was. I was in a fetal position for 2 weeks. I was so scared. But I'm glad I tried it. It changed my life. And so
Right.
those things that scare us the most are what's going to change our lives. And I've learned this, like, now, if there's anything I fear, particularly if I feel unqualified for it, then I quit thinking and I just go for it. And that's taking the job at IBM. It was a speechwriter job. I felt totally unqualified for the job.
Sure.
And I was unqualified. But the job came to me. I had this joy about it and also some fear, and I took it. And then it ended up kind of opening up a door for, being a comedy guy.
Right.
In content marketing.
So I like what you said there about, like, going to the fear, or it represents a new frontier. And we talk a lot on this show about growth. And one of the things that is absolutely critical as just a foundational piece of growth is that you have to be testing something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not going to get to a new place by doing the same thing. You
That's
have to
right.
be doing something new. And there is, like, an element of risk to that. So we talk a lot about it, and, like, maybe we do a long subject line versus a short subject line or
Yeah.
something like that. But I guess, like, adding the idea of maybe we try something lighthearted, something funny,
Yes.
something hyperbolic. Yeah, that's really just, like, an interesting point to tie it into comedy, as opposed to just, like, the normal A/B testing or variable testing that we would be talking about.
How much does a polar bear weigh? Enough to break the ice. Was that a bad joke? 100%. But the message in that joke is the point. Jokes break the tension. They make you lower your guard. They open the doors for a human connection and provide an opportunity to resonate. Humor lets your audience know that it's okay to be a human. It's okay to relax. You don't have to be on the offensive. You can open up and let a relationship start to form. And it's not impossible for even the most straight-laced, highly regulated, dare I say boring brands and companies to do so. Start with the customer. Who are they? What pains do they have that you help to solve? Take that, blow it up, exaggerate it, take it and run with it. Use it as the basis for your new campaign. If it scares you because it's new territory, well, that just means that you're on the path to growth. Remember, you can't grow your business or get to new places if you keep taking the same roads. Try something new. Test. Give yourself a chance to make a connection in a new way, to find a new avenue, to not only manage and meet the expectations of your audience, but to shatter them. To be the breakfast. You curious about how this might work for you? Try it out and see. If you want to test a humorous message against a general one, check out the split test automation recipe from ActiveCampaign and let the audience decide which messaging works better. It's linked in the handouts and in the resources below, but don't go just yet, because we've got more with Tim.
Listen, I was an analyst in New York for years, and I think it's incredibly important to use testing. We did a lot of conjoint analysis, and the thing is that there will be some things that you can't necessarily test for.
Right.
And if you have a gut feeling about, I think this would work, then I think you owe it yourself to try it. Even if the data you have, because you probably can't test some of these things. Like it'd be very difficult to test, well, how will a joke work with our audience? You can look at surrogates, and other types of, you can take proxies from different industries and that kind of thing, and get some kind of, estimation on whether it works or not. But, it's still not going to be perfectly clean with your audience. So it's worth a test. It's worth taking a risk. That's where the follow the fear idea comes in, is saying, all right, we don't have the data yet.
Right.
Or the numbers don't, maybe the numbers don't fully suggest we go this direction, but you know what? Let me just try this, and let me try it with a small people. You can even test it internally.
Right.
Test it internally, and with a few people, but don't be discouraged if a few people don't like it, because you got to find people who are open-minded to trying something new.
Right.
You got to be very mindful about who's in your focus group.
And I mean, everything that you do, you're not doing it for everyone anyway, right? Like, not everyone can be your customer, not everyone can be your audience.
That's exactly right.
So it would make sense that some people wouldn't.
That's exactly right, and that's a really important point that a lot of people don't understand.
Right.
And the thing is, you need to. I remember, like at IBM, I'd pitch an idea, and one of the objections I got from so many people was, "Well, comedy's not global," and I'm like, well, have we produced anything that has resonated with all 7 billion people?
Right.
Please point to that. And what happens so often in the corporate world, you'll start off with a creative idea and something fun and something different. And then as it goes through the levels of approval in all these committees, more and more people will say, what if we offend somebody with this? Or what if and then it never happens.
Right.
And what you end up doing is you end up just creating a video with these canned buzzwords that are meaningless, like, thought leadership. They're just meaningless. But nobody's going to be offended by this.
Right.
And you end up putting something together that just doesn't mean too much. And you're right, nobody's offended, but nobody cares. That's why it doesn't matter.
So getting back to like the anti-comedy aspect of like corporate communication, I feel like one thing that stand-up comedy has is, like you said, you would have a recovery joke because maybe you're trying a new joke and you haven't quite got the wording down right, and it's through iteration that you kind of get to the point where it's a joke, it's a bit that actually works. But in this case, like the iteration, the constant testing the message of further and further different levels and groups of people almost like dilutes it.
Yes.
So how do you get around that? How do you
Wait, I'm sorry. Are you talking about specifically about it dilutes it with the audience, with your corporate audience you're trying to get approval for?
Well, it would be like the message ultimately gets diluted the more and more you workshop it around in this.
Oh yeah, that's right. So you would have. That's a very good. Have you done stand-up?
No.
You sound like you have. Listen, you have to. If you're going to test comedy, you can only test it one time with one audience.
Right.
And then you got to take that joke to a new audience. To your point.
Right.
Because it's not funny the second time. And that's a challenge I deal with as a creator, because when I'll work on the script, a bunch of revisions. I've read the joke 1,000 times that way. Then we go and shoot it, and then I'm editing it. By the time I'm editing it, I'm kind of tired of the joke, and I start questioning myself. Doubt sets in. I'm like, is this really funny anymore? I thought it was funny at the beginning, and you got to be careful with that. That's a really important point. So find a couple of different audiences to go to. The other thing is you want a larger audience to test it with, because one or two people won't think it's funny. But when you take it to a broader audience with a room full of people, you're going to hear laughter. And I remember the very first comedy video I did at IBM. I showed it to the VP. He was like, okay, let's do this. And I thought, well, at some point, he may get cold feet before. This was in 2006 when we posted this thing on YouTube. It was a year. YouTube hadn't even been up for a year. And I thought he might get cold feet at some point.
Right.
So we had this all-hands meeting for our communications in this division. There were like 42 people in our communications group. And we were, this is back, you're too young to remember, it was back when we used to meet in person, okay? And I said, why don't we show the video and he's like, okay, great. So we showed it. And I knew him hearing people laugh at it would give him the confidence if cold feet set in at some point. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, some people laughed. There were a few places where I expected laughs and they didn't connect, but there were laughs at other places that I didn't even think people would laugh at. So it's always good to test it from a live audience, but it's important to have a good size audience, you know, which is not that easy to put together now. I understand, but
sure.
Yeah.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and you're more likely, I think, to have a visceral reaction like a laugh when you're kind of anonymized in a larger group of people.
That's exactly. Yeah, there are a lot of things at play when you get a group together for laughter. Like I do virtual events now, and we did this holiday for an accounting firm. So we did this event for a holiday party, and we invited people to bring their family members on. And I noticed at the end in the gallery, I could see where I do some jokes, and I can see if people were alone watching on their own, they didn't laugh as much as people watching with like 2 or 3 people in the same room. Though there would be a lot more laughs there. And there's definitely a strong social element to comedy. And you know, when you're watching a comedy on your own, you may not laugh as much, but when you're with a group of people, you tend to laugh more.
So if we bring that back to business, the idea of like the social aspect of it, with, you know, if a joke lands, if you try something funny and it does resonate and it does land and people are liking it, does that mean that it's more likely for them to share that or talk about that message or talk about your brand?
Yes, definitely. That's the thing. If you can make somebody laugh, it's a gift. It really is a gift if you can give somebody a laugh during the day. And that's what I'm such a big proponent that big brands need to take like maybe 5% or just 3% of their budget and say, you know what, we're going to just make people laugh with this. And we're not going to hit them over the head with a call to action afterwards. It's a gift. You know, that goes so far to earning brand loyalty, especially in this post-COVID era.
Yeah.
And they are so much more likely to share that.
Right.
You know, if I send you something without a call to action, if I attach a call to action to it, I understand it's important, but for you to share it with somebody else, there's this subconscious feeling of, okay, I'm doing work for this brand now. I'm marketing for them.
Right.
And if I just send you a joke and make you laugh, that brings value to your life, and now you feel like you're bringing value to other people by, you know, you do this with memes and GIFs, right? You see something funny and you're like, I'm going to share this with people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not do that for your brand, you know?
And to the point about like not having a call to action, I think there is like a call to action, but it's sort of like a delayed response one.
Yeah.
Because if you can resonate and create a laugh, create something that someone wants to share, you're inserting your brand or your company or whatever into their brain to maybe be activated at a later time, like when they have a problem and they're thinking about a thing. And it's sort of like I don't know if this is making sense, but it's like if you're funny and they accept that and they like it, and it's not immediately followed by a click here to learn more.
That's right.
But then later, when they do want to learn more, they're going to think of you and the fact that you made them laugh.
Yes, that's right. Look, let me give you a good example. I was watching, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I was watching the Today Show. It was probably the 5th or 6th hour of the Today Show. And I just turned it on in the morning, having coffee, and this commercial, this 30-second spot for Walden local meat comes on, and this is butcher that they only work with small local farms where they know the farmers, right? And then they process the meat and ship it to you wherever you are. And what they ended up doing is the CEO was there with his top butcher and then one other person, and they put a 30-second blooper reel together of the CEO just messing up his lines.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. And I'm sitting there, you talk about humility.
Right.
You know, if the CEO is going to show himself making mistakes, I feel like I can trust that person.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like he's not hiding something for me.
Right.
So here's what happened to me. I went and I went and tracked down the CEO and I said, look, can I interview about this? And then I go and I look on Walden Meats and stuff, and I'm going to become a customer. And then I also thought, like, how can I invest in this company? So I call my financial guy, because I'm like, I just kind of was like, dude, I love these people. You
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There wasn't a heavy call to action, and it was 30 seconds of them just having fun.
Right.
And I really felt like, okay, I feel like I feel like I know these people. Yeah.
But there's also like, you're a butcher, right? So the need to be perfect. Like, I mean, in your speaking,
Yeah.
people don't expect you to be perfect like that.
And the food business is highly regulated.
Right.
Okay. And people need to feel safe.
Right.
With that brand. They need to feel safe with that brand. And so when I talk to highly regulated companies, like in the financial industry or pharmaceutical, people automatically think, well, I can't do anything with personality because we're highly regulated, so we got to be stiff. No, not at all. You know, that's even when it's more important. If I'm buying pharmaceuticals, it's more important for me to trust you.
Right.
Okay. And being stiff and on script all the time, that doesn't build trust with me. It just doesn't. And you look at what Walden did, and I trusted this guy immediately, and I'm like, I want to get involved with this company somehow. So regulation, people who throw up that regulation wall and objection, just think about it, because again, you're still just look and see what kind of impact are we having. Test the marketing. What kind of impact are we having with our marketing?
Right.
And if it's not where you want it to be, experiment with something.
I think the more regulated, the more, stiff kind of, the bigger the opportunity, right? Like the bigger the reward for the comedy. Or if you were to kind of break through that mold, like you don't have to feel that way when you think about this industry or think about this company.
That's right. And if you do build the comedy on, again, a customer pain point that we're solving,
Right.
That doesn't show any fallibility with the brand at all. But there's nothing wrong with, in certain areas, you want it to be controlled, but again, the CEO of a food company getting his lines wrong, I'm not going to think that my food's any less safe because of that. I'm going to feel more like, okay, I can trust this guy because he's showing his flaws, so he doesn't have anything to hide from me.
Right.
So I feel safer eating a steak from this place than I do from somebody who's just spouting talking points to me the whole time.
Right, or behaving like a robot would.
Exactly, right.
Interesting. So throughout the show, this is the 21st episode, and so we've identified two common themes as they pertain to like growing your business using the customer experience, and it is know your customer and manage your customer's expectations.
Yes.
So with this idea of comedy, like know your customer, you're talking about highlighting a pain point and either maximizing it or making it funny, making it hyperbole. But the managing the expectations point is interesting for this in my head, because this is a lot more like exceeding or shattering your customer's expectations, right? Like if it's an industry where it's like you're saying it's highly regulated, it's stiff, it's straight-laced, whatever, but then you kind of just throw that all out the window if you can be funny, if you can break through that. And so that's like, it's like beyond exceeding them, it's literally shattering them or like making them redefine what their expectations are.
Yes, yes, exactly. And that's it. That's in the joke. That's what a joke is all about, is shattering expectations. So when you write a joke, a joke writer knows that you're trying to set up everything to go, and John will agree on this 100%, and Valerie too. We'll take this offline with both of them. Your joke, when you're writing a setup, right, you're trying to get the person's expectation, their mind going in one particular direction. Like, okay, I'm being led to this conclusion and I know exactly where we're going.
And that's our show. Thank you to Tim Washer for stopping by our hallway studio at Social Media Marketing World and talking about comedy and creativity in business. It's as easy as this. Identify your customer. Golden rule number 1, know your customer. Identify a common pain point they have, relevant to your business. Exaggerate it past the point of conventional, practical, or expected normalcy. Seriously, take it as far as you can think of. And then take that situation and turn it into a message. For a quick guide on the 5 steps to start incorporating comedy or humor into your business messaging, and for a link to that recipe to test out a humorous message against a normal one, check out the resources, or you can Google ActiveCampaign Best Sales Drip Automation Recipe and click on the first link that pops up. Adding humor to your brand voice is a great way to attract new audience members, to get new leads onto your website, and even to create new customers. If you're looking for more information on how to turn first-time customers into repeat customers or how to convert site visitors into leads, you can check out this video. If you're enjoying the show, tell someone about it. It would mean a lot to me, and it would mean the world to Plantasia. Until next time, go forth and automate.
What did you eat for breakfast this morning?
Did
you eat breakfast this morning?
I did have breakfast.
Okay.
You know what? It was Starbucks. It was a little egg bites.
I've never had those.
Oh, you got to step up to the plate. They're very good. It's like a low carb, high fat scenario.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
That's what you want.
It's basically ice cream with bacon that they package as a breakfast alternative.
How does breakfast continue to get away with things like that?
It's breakfast, man. It's the most important meal of the day. When
It's
you
like-
have that kind of clout, if you take anything from this interview, I want you to remember, if you have that kind of clout
Yeah.
of being the most important meal of the day, you can do anything. And it transfers into any kind of content marketing career. It's the same thing. Just establish yourself as the most important meal of the day. And
So you just want to be the breakfast of whatever it is
that's
that you're
exactly,
doing.
that's exactly what I'm saying. And I think we should quote you, Ernie, on a sweatshirt that says, "Be the breakfast."
Be the
Yeah,
be the breakfast.
that's right.
So actually, I like that, that way of looking at things, because you're right. When you have that kind of clout, you can eat deep fried cakes
Yes, you can.
covered in sugar.
Funnel cakes for breakfast.
You can
with
eat whatever you
syrup.
want to.
Absolutely.
You can even get away with it for dinner if you just say it's breakfast for dinner.
That's exactly right. This is what, if you look at history,
Yeah,
how do you think John F. Kennedy got elected?
breakfast. He was the breakfast.
He was the breakfast of the candidates. Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was. He showed up on that debate stage.
He was the Western omelet
He was-
of the East Coast.
The Western omelet of the East
Of
Coast.
the North, that's who it was. That's right. Yeah, those are in the files that have not been. Go to the JFK Library sometime in Boston, and you'll find that.
You think he was the Western omelet and not like the full Irish breakfast?
Okay, that's a fair point. He probably led with that. But if you remember, there was a lot of concern about having a Catholic be president.
Right.
And so I think they backed off, and his dad, Joe, who knows how to kind of get things done, said, you know what, let's appeal to not over the flyover states, but out west and call it the Western omelet.
It was a rebranding.
And he was
repackaging.
elected. That's right. Yeah.
Be the breakfast. So, I'm now joined by